she's what this ad is all about, right? Look at her on a cowboy, in a cowboy hat or whatever. That's fine, I guess. If she wasn't in the president's cabinet, what was she doing on that horse this time? She's rounding cattle or something like that. Give me a break. I mean, she's got other responsibilities other than, look at me, aren't I fabulous? Aren't I kind of hot on this horse? I think that's part of it. I do, sorry. I don't know. This is about her, not about us, and not about protecting America, I fear.
So look, was that weird in a lot of ways, Greg Kelly? Yeah, it was super weird. At points, it seemed like he was doing an impersonation of James Austin Johnson, doing an impersonation of Donald Trump. And don't use the word hot, dude. Oh God, he makes me so uncomfortable. But it is interesting to see a hard right MAGA newsman talking about that ad in the same way that we have been for months, for them to start to realize, oh, she's not actually a serious person. This is just kind of like a bucket list thing for her. I mean, like most charitable interpretation is she's producing content that she thinks will help her when she runs for president. But honestly, it just feels like an extended year-long Make-A-Wish thing for Kristi Noem. And we are freed up intellectually to point out how ridiculous that is. Generally, the right can't, but they're starting to see it. And it might actually have some consequences, because now Trump aides and allies are starting to float potential Noem successors as speculation grows over the apparently impending end of her tenure. And we're gonna get to some of the names that have popped up, but let's just have a little bit more of the criticism of Noem coming from Greg Kelly.
I don't know, I think being in the government is more than an ego trip. That's Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security secretary, on a horse in South Dakota on a work day. Every day is a work day when you're the DHS secretary. We got a lot of things going on. But this is a commercial that I presume was paid for by our tax dollars. I saw it on television a couple of times. Is it worthwhile? Is it necessary? Is it even desirable? She's a great person, I'm sure, but less time on the horse and more time at the office with the files, okay? We know you look great, but I think there are more important things to do.
I agree with much of what he said there. I disagree with just assuming that she's a good person. Why would we assume that? She's doing the DHS stuff. She seems horrible and racist in that way. What else do we know about her? I don't know, she capped that dog once. I don't give her a lot of credit for that. So overall, no, I'm not inclined to believe that she's a good person. She's a horribly corrupt person. She's a self-serving person. She's utterly incompetent, ill-equipped for her position, but in her defense also was ill-equipped for the previous positions that she held. How could she not expect to keep getting bigger jobs when they just keep handing them to her? So anyway, it's not good for Kristi Noem when you get to the point where Greg Kelly, someone like him, feels like, oh, I think it's safe to start attacking her now. And that is what this represents to me. I don't particularly care about him. I care about what it signals, what he is reading in MAGA about Kristi Noem. And so if she does go, who might be replacing her? Well, some of the names that have been popping up, you have Fox News contributor, of course it has to be a media person, and former Utah Representative Jason Chaffetz. You also have Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, whose term ends in January, so he would be freed up to do the job along sort of the timeline that we've been hearing that Noem might be going. And so they could potentially be the replacements, Sharon. I don't know if you have thoughts about either of them or whether you think this is happening at all, but it is interesting to see the criticism start to pop up on the right.
Yeah, somebody's out of a job. I think Youngkin probably is driving it more than anything. He visited with the president at the White House, so he's floating his name out there. I don't really care. I hope she loses her job and everything, and I'd be just fine with that. But it's curious to me that all of the disasters going on in there, including the guy who keeps blowing the fishing boats and the shrimpers out of the water in the Caribbean, is still there and sitting next to President Trump. He's still there, and yet the woman and her glam team are gonna be the one that has to go, okay? It's crazy. This guy Hegseth, he divulged the secrets. He had his wife and probably his nanny on this stuff too, Snapchat or whatever he was doing, Signal. And yet she's the one that has to go. Now again, I'm all for it. You listed every way that she's a terrible person, okay? The deportations, going to the prison, wearing that little stupid belt or ammo on her, all of that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I pray that the guy who swiped her purse got off. If I was on the jury, it'd be jury nullification. That's how much she is disgusting. And I'm not saying it's okay to go swiping people's stuff, but if you're going to swipe someone's stuff, it's her. I think Youngkin's going to get the job soon, or whoever is the last in the room with Trump.
Yeah. I think you could swipe her stuff. I'd probably say Nancy Mace, maybe even more at this point. There's a lot of purses that need to be stolen. But anyway, yeah. Look, we don't know for sure this is gonna happen. The spokespeople are putting out statements like, she's the best there's ever been and Trump loves her, which they will say up until 1 second before they throw her ass out of the White House. And so you can't trust anything they're saying. We know that all of this is based around her running in 2028. I don't see her doing well. Maybe I'll end up being wrong. For now, though, I would just say I hope that she's enjoying herself. Again, she seems to be having a great time flying around and dressing up in costumes. Again, living out her bucket list, living out her Make-A-Wish thing. But like, I love Make-A-Wish. It's for specific people. It's not for everybody. You don't just get. I don't get a Make-A-Wish. I mean, if I did, I know what it would be. It would be a one-on-one meeting between Kristi Noem and Donald Trump. Donald Trump's dressed up in a dog costume, but we don't get it. You just don't get it, okay? It's for a special class of people who are much more deserving.